If you're micromanaging, it's an insult. It would be like your spouse saying to you, now are you going to get ready on time? Because you don't usually. Remember, get ready. Don't forget to do that. Don't forget. It is annoying. It's patronizing. And where's the pride? Yet you do that to your kids. Think about it. Treat them the way you want to be treated.
How do I stop micromanaging my 4-year-old daughter? I want to stop telling her what to do, but how then does she do what she's supposed to do?
If your kids are obedient soldiers and you're always telling them what to do, wait till the teen years. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, what is today's topic?
Today's topic is micromanaging as a parent.
Oh, good one.
Do you see this come up a lot with parents that you're talking to?
Oh, 100%. Don't forget to do that. Don't forget to do that. Could you imagine if your friend or your spouse was saying that to you? Don't forget. Don't forget. It is annoying. So yeah, stop it. Let them have some pride. Let them actually be self-sufficient and learn how to do things on their own. And then your response right now, you're thinking, Lisa, you idiot. They just don't do anything if I don't do that. That's right. But you follow it up with a consequence. So you say, okay, I'll tell you what, from now on, your rule is blah, blah, blah. And then if they don't follow it, then there's a consequence. But you don't keep reminding them and micromanaging and nagging and threatening and, disaster. Because what you're actually doing is you're assuming they can't do it. You're assuming they're not going to do it. And they may very well not do it. That's okay. Let them fail and then deal with the consequences. That's where they learn. They don't learn through your micromanaging. They learn through the consequences if they don't do what they need to do.
And to clarify, I'm assuming you've laid out the directions so they understand what needs to be done?
Yes. And they already understand no hitting and all that stuff. Parents tend to keep reminding them. They already know not to hit. But if you think they're going to hit, a lot of parents can't help themselves. You can run in and prevent the hit, but you want them to go for it. Okay? You don't necessarily want them pulverizing their little brother or sister, but you know, they already know most of this anyway, right? So a lot of it is just redundant. You just nagging, because you're hoping you don't have to deal with it. That's why. You're hoping you can prevent you having to step in and hand out a consequence. That's why you do it. You just don't want to deal with it. You don't want to deal with them making a mistake so that you have to come in and hand out a consequence. You're trying to make your life easier, but in the long run, you're making it harder. If they're only doing something because you're nagging them, they're not actually doing it. They're not initiating anything. They've learned nothing.
And what age is this?
Oh, 3.
And then before 3?
Well, let's say we were going to go out somewhere. I would say to my 2-year-old, I would say, okay, as soon as we put our toys away, we can go to the park. And I would start cleaning up. Chances are they would join in.
Did I?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you knew, you just started to learn that the faster stuff gets put away, the sooner we go to the park. So if I wanted my kids to do something, I used leverage. I used a bit of a, not a bribe, but yeah, I use the as soon as method. Okay, we're going to go have a snack as soon as we put this away or as soon as we put our laundry, whatever it was. That's what I did. And they just learned. They got to the point where if they wanted to go to the park, they wouldn't even ask until they'd done their chore or whatever they had to do first. So they'd run around putting stuff away. Can we go to the park? I'd say, sure. I didn't even have to say as soon as, because it just became a habit. They were self-disciplined. That's why I never really had to tell my kids what to do.
I do remember that, and I feel like I have brought that into my adulthood life as well. I mean, I'm sure as a teenager I wasn't always the best at doing that, but I would say nowadays, I do give myself those micro rewards once I've completed a task.
Yeah, I don't do that, but I do. I don't tend to do that with myself, but anyway. I was a better mother than I am a me. Did that make any sense?
Okay, Mom.
I wanted them to be better than me. There you go.
You can clean as soon as you...
Oh, okay. Cleaning. I love cleaning. I still to this day. She was just arriving here about 10 minutes ago. And I thought, I wanted to get some cleaning done, but I don't like cleaning in front of people. I'm a closet cleaner because it's my own meditation. So it's I don't like meditating in front of other people, mainly because I don't like meditating at all. Anyway, so I ran around here cleaning, scrubbing the toilet just before she got here. That's my relaxation.
Okay, should we get into the questions?
Yes.
Okay, the first one is Mimi from the United States, so a 3-year-old and a 5-month-old. How do I establish what the rules are for my 3-year-old without becoming micromanaging? We have a behavior board and it's working great. However, I'm not sure how to handle the minor occasional behaviors that aren't on the board, or at least not yet. Do we issue a consequence for every behavior every time? If so, how do we prevent coming off as nagging?
Okay, generally that behavior board, the free behavior board only goes for 3 weeks and it's 3 behavior boards. The boot camp course goes into what you do afterwards, and that's what I call in the moment discipline. So that's when you're dealing with everything. So basically it goes like this. You can still use the behavior boards if you want, but you say, I'll tell you what, from now on, I need you to do this. If they don't do it, then you say, or there'll be a consequence. They already understand consequences. You're just teaching them the rules and consequences. Then you just verbalize a new rule. Say, from now on, I want you to put your shoes in the cubby. And then just say, and if it's not done, there'll be a consequence, right? So they already understand sort of how it goes. So that's how you do it.
The next question is Chloe from
sorry. Let me just elaborate on that a little bit. Let's say because parents are thinking, yeah, okay, but what if they do bad things all day long? Then the first maybe 1 or 2 times you might hand out consequences. After that, you just say, I'll tell you what, we'll talk about it after dinner. And then you bundle up the whole bad day and you say, look, today wasn't a good day. Mention a couple things they did, and then go in with the bigger consequence at the end of the day. So that's why if you have a really bad day, that's how you handle that. Because otherwise, consequence, it just gets ridiculous. But you address it each time. You say, oh, okay, so you did that again. Remember, we'll talk about that after dinner. Then after dinner, you hand out the consequence appropriate for what kind of a day they had. If it was a really bad day, then you come in with a bigger consequence. You take something really big away. Like you might want to shut down all the screens or whatever for 24 hours. And say, because you did that. Let the scene happen. Parents say, yeah, but then they're going to have a scene. I'm like, good. That's what you want. You want them to process that they can't be bad all day and still still play video games. You've got to teach them that if they're good, if I used to say to my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good, I'll make sure of it because that's my job. I'm your mom. So they learned accountability. They learned that it was all their choice. I always said that to my kids, your choice. You can do whatever you want to do. I'll never try and micromanage you. You do whatever you want, but I'll come in with a consequence if you make a poor choice.
Okay, I'm going to circle back on a few things you said just based off of questions that I see online. The first one was discussing bad behavior. Now, you talk about how you don't recommend discussing bad behavior, but there you said, okay, you've done this today, so here's the consequence. Where's the difference?
That's such a good question. There's a huge difference. The difference is you're still dealing with it. I say you deal with bad behavior. You haven't dealt with it yet. That's the difference. But once it's dealt with, then that's different. Does that make any sense? You haven't handed out a consequence for it yet. So they do bad behavior all throughout the day, but you're not discussing it. You know you shouldn't do that. Why would you do that? That's what I mean when I say discussing it. You say, okay, so that was a bad choice. Okay, and then I'll tell you what, we'll discuss it after dinner. Then after dinner, you bundle it all up. You only mention a couple things they did bad, and then you say, we're going to, because today was a bad day, we're just going to come in with a big consequence. Okay?
So let's say your kid comes back at you, though, and they say, but why was it bad behavior?
I'm assuming they already know. Past the age of 3, they know not to lie, not to hit, not to throw things. Okay, let's assume they already know. If they don't know, say because hitting is not good. It hurts people. Done. And then that's it. But why? They're not looking for an explanation. They're just looking to pull you in. They're trying to change your mind. They're trying to control the narrative. You're in control. You control the narrative. When you're disciplining, that's you. Don't let them control the narrative.
And to circle back on the media blackout, we've actually had some people ask about music. Is that included in media blackout?
Yes, it is. If it's music, like if it's a teenager, and they're quite happy to listen to their music all day long too. Some of them, not all of them. But yeah, it does include music if it's theirs. I'm not saying go the extra mile and play your elevator music just to drive them insane. But yeah, I would cut out their music, their choice. They can't choose any music that's going on in the house.
Put on the record player.
And the old Frank Sinatra. And by the way, you might be too young to know who that was. That was an old crooner back in my mother's day. It wasn't my day. I'm not quite that old.
I don't know. Maybe it's cool again.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I listen to... who do I listen to? Oh, NWA and Slipknot and Frank Sinatra and Michael Bublé. I got a real mix of music because I raised a son who was into heavy metal. So he got me hooked on a lot of that. So I listened to rap and all that stuff and Frank Sinatra.
I feel like your music player has no idea what to suggest for you.
The funny thing is I've never, ever listened to country. And whenever I ask to just play music, it plays country. Why does it do that, Amy?
It's not my fault.
It's her husband's fault because he was here a lot. He always got, when I first got my, I don't even want to say it, the Amazon, thing. And when I first got that, he was around a lot. So he would play country music, and it thinks I like country music. That was like 9 years ago. And it's still, when I say play music, it usually starts with country music. Thanks to your husband.
Yeah. Funny thing is, he's kind of off country music now.
Yeah, but then whenever he comes over, he says, "Oh, you still like country, do you, Lisa?" Okay, next question.
So we have Chloe from the United States. How do I stop micromanaging my 4-year-old daughter? I want to stop telling her what to do, but how then does she do what she's supposed to do? I can see the damage the micromanaging is doing, and I'm just curious, what do I replace it with?
Well, you've got to decide what you want to put on as her responsibilities. Like my kids, I never told them to get ready for school, to sit down to dinner, to do their homework, to go to bed. They knew that that was part of what you just do. I mean, they didn't question it ever. They never knew you could question that. It's just what we do. So if it's one of those, if it's all of those that she won't do, just pick a battle. Pick one battle per week and say, we're going to do school morning routine. It's summer right now, maybe where you are. If you're overseas in Australia, it's not. But yeah, just pick a battle. Say, I'm going to get you to put her shoes and her jacket away. And the other stuff that, like, it's dinner time, you can just go get her hand and say, we're having dinner now, and then put it on a board in future. You only deal with one board per week. So you've got her putting her shoes away when she comes home. That's the first week. The second week is come to the table within 5 minutes of being asked to do so. It could be grouped in with mealtime routine. So you can just do a little chart. Mealtime routine is come to the table within 5 minutes of being asked to do so. Don't get up once you're sitting down. No toys or devices at the table, and put your dishes in the sink afterwards. That is the mealtime routine, and that's the rule. Follow mealtime routine, maybe in the second behavior board. So once she understands that there are routines and habits that she has to do, once you've sort of worked on those on the behavior board, then when she chooses not to do them in the future, there's a consequence. So you want them to be self-disciplined. You don't, they often talk about you got to teach your kids to be self-disciplined. No, self is self. You use consequences so they learn to discipline themselves. If your kids are obedient soldiers and you're always telling them what to do, wait till the teen years. You're going to be hiring me, I'll tell you. There's no way that a teenager wants to be told what to do. But if you've raised them to be self-disciplined and having responsibilities and pride in themselves, high self-esteem is all part of this, then the teen years are easy.
You've discussed this as well as the idea that not micromanaging can lead to pride.
If they don't have anything that they're responsible for, how can they have any pride in who they are? How can they have any pride? You want to give them responsibilities. You don't want them just following orders. There's no pride in that. None. Zero.
I can liken it to if you've worked in a place where your manager gives you a task, you complete it, and then they go and they change everything, or they're telling what to do. You kind of just don't even want to put effort into your tasks anymore.
Well, because it's not yours, it's theirs. You don't have any ownership over it. I wanted my kids to feel ownership over their own homework, their own bedtime, their own meal. I wanted them to feel responsible. And they were. That's what's amazing, is once you learn this, once they start to feel proud of themselves, they do good. They feel good, they do good. They feel bad, they do bad. If you're micromanaging, you're guaranteed making them feel bad. They can't do anything on their own. It's patronizing. Imagine if your spouse always said, remember to be on time. Remember you were late that other time, so don't forget. Okay, 5 more minutes. Remember to be on time. Wouldn't you want to sort of be late? It's micromanaging. No one wants to be micromanaged. Kids are no different. Give them a source of pride. Give them something to be proud of. Give them responsibilities. And then once it's all laid out and they understand that there's a consequence if they don't do it, but be fair and reasonable too. Don't give them too much. A lot of parents do that too. Well, it didn't work. Lisa said, and it didn't work. Start small. They can put their shoes in the cubby within 5 minutes of arriving home. What? What are you laughing at?
No, I'm just envisioning the task they're giving them. You have to just finish the roofing of the house, and then you...
It's really true, because parents don't do any discipline, or they're just struggling, and then they come in too hard. The pendulum swings the other way too much. So yeah, you start small, because you're learning. I don't teach kids here. I teach parents. We're not fixing kids. We're fixing parents. So you've got to learn how to lead, and you do that one rule at a time, one rule per week.
And I'm imagining as well, if maybe parents are listening and they have that pang of maybe, oh, I think I've been micromanaging. I think that your message is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is all changeable stuff. Like, this isn't, you don't have to be micromanaging forever. You can change this, correct?
What do you mean Correct me if I'm wrong. You already know you're right. Of course. Because I always say you can change it. Teenagers, now your basic personality never changes, but your behavior and the way you treat other people can change. So I always say respect their basic personalities. I only had 2 kids, but they're very different personalities. So I did quite a few things different. But one thing that was always the same was there was rules. They both had to follow the rules. Like, let's say in a classroom, you have 30 kids with 30 different personalities. You have the same rules for them all, basically, but you respect the fact that they're different personalities. A good example of that is my son he loved being teased. I did too growing up. My daughter didn't like it, so I couldn't tease it. Well, I did in certain ways, but not the scaring. My son loved it, diving out of pantries with him. So they're all different, okay? But it's changeable. It's fixable. With teenagers, it's different the way we approach it. We don't deal with their behavior, we deal with your connection with them. And you often have to make amends with teenagers first. Look, I'm sorry I messed up all these past few years. How about I buy you a new blah, 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 and we'll start fresh. I'm learning here. That's how it's done. Be very humble. A lot of parents say, but doesn't that make me look weak? I said, no, that makes you look strong.
I say correct me if I'm wrong, just I'm not a parent, so I don't know. Sometimes I just misinterpret things. So
how long were you sitting waiting to get that out?
2 minutes, I think.
I can always tell when she gets this smirk when she's waiting to say something. So
I'm trying so hard not to interrupt, but I wanted to interrupt right away.
I know. Yeah, I know. And it's funny because I know when we're filming, we can't talk over each other like we do. I don't think either one of us ever listen to each other when it's just the 2 of us. All we do is talk, talk, talk. Your husband's commented on that. You 2 just never stop. Do either of you listen? We're like, what? What's that? So we've had to learn to stop and listen to each other while we're doing our podcast. It's a challenge.
Podcast is making us better listeners.
Yeah, but I liked it the other way too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Next question.
So we have Natalie from the United States. How are we to know if our child is struggling with anger issues that need to be addressed by a therapist or if it's coming from poor parenting? Our child is 8 and her tantrums have always been so explosive, stemming from something so minimal. We have 2 other children, ages 13 and 6. We find ourselves constantly walking on eggshells, all while trying to micromanage the actions of the other children so she doesn't get set off. Her outbursts are getting hard to manage. Please help. We are not sure where to turn.
Well, I can't comment on whether or not she needs therapy or to be assessed. I don't know. But generally, when you're a leader, like I would sort of eliminate, I'd set myself up first as a leader. And then if she still has these issues, then you might want to get some help. But that's up to you to decide whether or not, which is going to come first here. But generally, when a high stressed child with anger issues they almost always calm down when they're around a leader. Everybody does. It's like that kid that I worked with. I know I bring this up all the time, but it was just such a short, good example. I just met him. He was 8 years old. And he says, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And I just sat back in my chair and I said, bring it on. And he never did. He was great with me. And this was a kid with massive anger issues. So they often feed off of your energy. If they feel judged, they often feel angry. If they feel injustices, are you really listening? Are you really fair? Or are you just are they being antagonized by their siblings? And you're always blaming the one that gets antagonized. You see, I go after the perpetrator, not the victim. So are their siblings pushing their buttons? Some kids just have a shorter fuse. They have more exposed buttons. And siblings often go after that. And then when the one that retaliates hits or whatever, then they get in trouble. But you didn't see what happened before that. So yeah, I'd figure out what's going on. Is there a feeling of injustices? Does she feel heard? I don't know.
But just the disclaimer is that you can't discuss
well, I can't discuss whether or not she needs a therapist. I don't know. That's not my lane. I stay in my lane. I teach parent-child relationships. I'm a parenting coach. I'm not a therapist. Therapists go into the past. Of course, I deal a lot with that too, but that's not my focus. Therapists fix the past. That's basically what they're doing, to keep it in simple terms. And coaches focus on the future. So I'm focused on the future. I don't know what happened to her in the past or what's going on now even, but I would teach you how to be a leader. And when you're a calm leader, if that affects and calms her down, then that was the problem. But you got to decide whether or not you think she needs therapy. That's your call, not mine. Don't edit this out, Amy. We've made that very, very clear. I'm not a therapist. I can't assess that. And I can't even suggest whether or not you get one. That's your call as the parent.
You discussed this as well, where if parents are having challenge with like one kid over another, they say, well, it's not the parenting, see, because one kid's just more difficult. But then you've talked about the idea that easy kids tend to be easy regardless.
That's right. You can do everything wrong and they're still going to turn out okay because they're just not combative. They're just sort of more, they just have more of a sense of self right from day one. I mean, that's rare, but most kids do challenge you a little bit. But yeah, often parents blame that one kid. And whenever I'm hired for coaching, I'll almost always say, which one's our target? There's usually one they're going after, but that's not always the one that I decide is the one that I want to go after. It's often the antagonizer. So they're, like I said, pushing the buttons. So yeah, you're going to get, if you have 10 kids, they're going to be 10 different personalities. Okay. But you just have to adjust your parenting and it's never blame them. They're more feisty. They may often be the athletes or the entrepreneurs of tomorrow because they are more, they're just more feisty. They have more energy for this stuff. They might be better at coming up with ideas. They might be the one that you're closest to later on. You don't know. So just because they're causing you more problems now does not mean that they're less of a child in some way. It just means that they're just different. That's all. Also, don't make it obvious. Whenever we have a target that we're going after, we don't put down on the behavior board, the target has stop being rotten to your siblings, which I'd never put on there anyway. And then the other ones are just continue being as lovely as ever. We've got to make it really clear, like make it really obvious that it's just rules for everybody and we're all included and there's no one that's worse than the other. Kids usually know when they're the ones anyway. They know, they don't feel good about themselves. Kids who are acting out have very low self-esteem.
Okay, we'll get into the next question. It's Elizabeth from the United States, 3 and 6-year-old. During a discipline chore, how would you handle the child saying they're done when they aren't? Example, they're still spraying on spots on the door or table, wiping them down. I have to keep saying, no, it's not done, and that feels like micromanaging. However, when I mention there's still some spray, they always ask, where? I can only see one. And can only see if I point it out.
Okay, that's up to you. You have to make it very, very, very clear before they even do it exactly how it needs to be done. And then afterwards, you assess it. If it's just a little, like if they've tried to do it, but if they keep asking, say, I don't know, I'm just looking at the timer. Do not micromanage because you've already made it very, very clear. Your instructions were very clear on how to do it. They will pretend they don't know how, and that's okay. Then you can go to the next consequence and they'll learn you. It's amazing how well they do it the next time. So they usually know anyway. Make sure they know ahead of time how to do it and then assess it. Like, let's say they did miss a little bit of the spray area, then let it go. But if you really feel like they tried, but if they kept coming at you, they're trying to pull you in. That's a manipulative tactic. Is this good? Is this how I do it? Say, I don't know. I'm just timing. That's all you have to say. Say it once, not again. Just keep looking at the timer. Why aren't you talking to me? And just shake your head. No, I'm looking at the timer. They will learn. You got to be willing to go through that. That's the test for them. Like they're testing you. Can I pull you into this? Is that they're trying to get away with not doing much, basically. Is that good enough? Is that I don't want to do anymore? Is that good enough? They're manipulating you.
Okay, we have Alison.
Is that now here's what I'm thinking. That is so cut and dry, black and white obvious to me that as soon as they say, is that good? They're just saying, is that good enough? They're trying to get off scot-free. Does that make total sense, in other words? Do you get that?
I understand it, but I also understand from the parent's perspective, it would be not black and white in the moment.
In the moment. Okay, I see that because their emotions are caught up, whereas mine aren't. I'm just all business when I'm disciplining. So, because I've already shown them, maybe that's it too. Maybe you haven't really shown them. But yeah, I make sure I'm very clear. So when I come down with something like a consequence, they know exactly what's expected. And then if they don't follow through, then they just go to the next consequence. That was their choice. But I forgot. Well, you'll know next time, won't you? You see? No emotions. The funny thing is, this is what parents say to me, but I really don't think he understood. I really don't. So then I'll train them through this and I'll say, okay, so just let them learn and they get media blackout for 24 hours. The next time, how perfectly do you think they vacuum that kitchen or whatever it is? Like it's amazing how they actually did know how to do it. Because I always say, I'm pretty sure that kitchen vacuum is going to be sucking up every single crumb the next time, even though they, quote, don't know how to do it, unquote.
Okay,
they're just playing you.
We have Alessandra from the United Kingdom. My son, who's almost 4, takes 1,000,000 years to eat his dinner. He cannot sit and eat, besides being a massive picky eater who did not eat a single piece of solid food until he was 1.5. He always needs to be doing something else, like playing with toys, running, jumping on the couch. We have to remind him about his food every couple of minutes and sometimes insist until he takes one bite and goes right back to playing. It's a massive struggle, so stressful, and we're honestly so tired of it. We suspect he may have ADHD, and his daycare also raised this with us as he struggles a lot to participate on activities where he is expected to sit still, focus, and follow instructions. I'm not sure, with this being related to food, if it's something that you would tell us to put on the behavior board or not, nor do I know if it's due to his suspected ADHD, if it's unfair of us to expect him to be able to do this. What would you advise?
It's kind of hard for me because um, it's about food, and he did have problems eating in the past. But what I would do is I'll just keep it really light. I won't go into great detail about this, but I'll just say what I would do is I would pull out, he must like a favorite book or a story or something. I would pull it out and he only gets to hear that story. You could do it like on a tape thing, but I wouldn't use a screen. So I would just have like an audio story being told, something that he really likes. And then I would be sitting, you always sit with them when they're eating if they have problems eating. So make sure you sit with them and you're talking to him. So give him a reason to sit there. In other words, he is bored. Now, it's a little bit different because you also said if it was just around meal, that would be different. But he also isn't good at focusing on activities at school. So it is an issue with him. But those are all the kids I worked with. They all had ants in their pants. They couldn't sit still. But if you give them a good enough reason to sit still, they usually will. So yeah, give them a reason to sit there. If food isn't it, obviously food isn't that important to him. But he'll have a bite and then walk away. Yeah, I don't allow that. I don't want to go in great detail about that because it's a whole system and mealtime routine. And it might not work with him. So yeah, just try that entertaining him when you're sitting with him.
Okay. And to clarify, you wouldn't use the Bratbusters behavior board for this.
Not right now. I wouldn't, just because I suspect he is super hyperactive. Plus, she said he wouldn't eat for a million years. That's a long time for him to go without eating. So I'm concerned the millions of years there that he's not getting any food. So yeah, I wouldn't put it on the behavior board quite yet because he did potentially have thriving issues with food in the past. That's why. But usually this is what parents say to me when I'm coaching them. Sometimes I'll get like friends or family that hire me different separately, and then they'll compare notes and they'll say, "Did you even get the same Lisa?" But I tell them different things personalized for their family. So that's why this may seem a little bit different, because usually I do put follow mealtime routine on the behavior board, but because he potentially could have failure to thrive kind of issues from not eating enough, that's when I wouldn't start there. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
But not nutritionist. Can't.
No, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't have a clue about any of that, but I do know how to build your relationship with your child, and potentially doing that by connecting with him during mealtime. It might encourage him to sit there longer, which potentially could get him to eat better. That's all.
So we have one last question, Carly from the United States. How do you help a 20-month-old follow directions? My daughter would follow simple directions, so come here, put this in the trash, etc. And now I feel like she picks and chooses what she wants to listen to. It's frustrating because I feel like we're moving backwards.
Well, the problem is you're asking her to do something, and that gives them something to fight against. I would just say, okay, let's put this in the garbage, then we'll go do that. If she doesn't do it, I would go and take it and put it in the garbage myself. So whenever you say something to a 20-month-old, a toddler is zero. A toddler is 16 months to 35 months in my books. That's the way I look at it. So you say, okay, so let's go clean up your toys. And then if they don't do it, I start doing it. I just take action after I've done that first comment and I don't ask them, do you want to put your toys away? Then that invites the no. You see, I just say, okay, I say it like it's going to happen anyway, and I make it happen anyway. So they can either conform and join in, because I'm so cheery when I'm doing it. They tend to conform and join in. We had a horrible time getting this one out because I was doing something with the microphone that I was being a pest, and then she got the giggles. So we actually got to that last question. I just want to bring that up because I am the pest in the relationship. My daughter's the calm, responsible one. I'm the crazy, goofy one. I always kind of was. And the reason I'm bringing that up is you can still be fun and goofy with your kids, and you can also be a leader. This is not all serious stuff. Whenever I'm talking about discipline, it's all serious and calm. But the rest of the time, I was a nutcase. I was crazy, fun, goofy. So you want to mix that up. If all you're ever doing is being calm and disciplining all the time, you always stay calm when you're disciplining, no emotions, then it's not going to work. Their love language is fun. It's also mine. That's why I'm so goofy. But anyway,
I'm sorry. Can we just rewind on that one? Were you doing that for my love language?
Anyway, we're just about finished
I'm
here.
almost tempted to not even cut out like 10 minutes of me trying to get out this last question.
Maybe you should leave it in to understand some of the dynamic in mother-daughter adult relationships. But we were always kind of like this. You were always the sensible, level-headed one. I was always the nutcase. I was very responsible, but I was crazy. So, sometimes I'll just tease her because I know she doesn't like it. That's what I was doing on this podcast. So yeah, just leave it all in. They'll see all that.
No, it's okay. She's a little bit of a poker.
Yes, I am. But and then you got the giggles, so it was worth it. But she got the giggles because she couldn't continue with the podcast because I annoyed her so much. But still, she giggled. So I got what I wanted. I was trying to make her laugh, and that's what I did. Anyway, okay, so do you understand the micromanaging? Does it make sense according to what we've discussed? Like, do you understand it? Did I make sense?
It feels clear to me simply so I'm going to try and take away what you said. It's the idea that you want to give your kids a sense of pride by making them feel like you're not thinking that they're not going to do the thing. You're just putting out the rules. You're expecting that they're going to follow them. And then if they don't, it's a quick consequence. Is that the idea?
Yes, I always treat kids like I expect the best from them. I never treat them like I expect the worst. If you're micromanaging, it's an insult. It would be like your spouse saying to you, now, are you going to get ready on time? Because you don't usually. Remember, get ready. Don't forget to do that. Don't forget. It is annoying. It's patronizing. And where's the pride? You can't stand that person. Don't you just want to talk back to them? That's what you're doing to the kids. Don't forget to do that. I know, Mom. I know. Yeah, but you usually don't do it anyway. You see all that? It just perpetuates more negativity. I just lay down the rules way ahead of time, and if the kids don't follow it, then I follow it up with an action. If it's a toddler, I follow through with what has to be done. So if I say, okay, so let's get these toys cleaned up, they don't have to do it with me because they're only toddlers. But they start doing it with you anyway, usually when they're toddlers. But then when they're kids and they already understand the rules that they have to make their bed every morning, I don't remind them. There's no way I would do that. But later on at night, I'd say, oh, by the way, your bed wasn't made all day. Well, no, that's not true. I would make it. But I'd say I had to make your bed because you didn't make it before school. So I'm going to get you to help me with the laundry tonight or something. No big deal. No big deal. But the rest of the time, be fun and goofy and play with your kids. Fun, laughter, joy is their love language. So have fun with your kids. And micromanaging is a big mistake. Just think about it. Do you want your spouse or your friends micromanaging you? There's no difference. You may say the difference is I'll get it done anyway. But kids, let them fail and then come in with a consequence. So don't worry about whether or not they do it. That's what parents always argue with me. But if I don't micromanage, they don't do it. And I go, yeah, what's your point? Let them not do it and then come in with a consequence after. That is what teaches all of us. We all do the right thing because of the consequences, not because of what we know we should do or understanding or not understanding. That's not it. We don't speed because we don't know we shouldn't. We speed just because we do sometimes. And the reason that we don't speed as much as we want or as often as we want is because we know there's a consequence if we do. It's the consequences that keep us in track. And what's that? On track? On track. It's the consequences, not being reminded. Remember, don't speed. Remember, don't speed. Remember, pay for your groceries. Don't walk out without paying. Could you imagine if people were micromanaging you everywhere you went? What a world it would be. And yet you do that to your kids. Think about it. Treat them the way you want to be treated. And that could be used with a lot, not everything, but it can be used with a lot of stuff. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. Did you have any last words, sweetie?
That was everything.
Okay, thanks for joining us. We'll talk again soon. Happy parenting.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.